Is there an observer anywhere nearby? He does have an observer, there it is. So he's going to need line of sight up there. And was that a triple storm? Triple storm. So it seems like it might have been 2, but it looked like 3, so maybe from 3 storms onto the siege tank will get rid of it. Problem being with Terran mobility, you move your force out, there's nothing stopping him dropping a couple of tanks on there while you're busy at his base. He can just leave those tanks, set and forget. Jinro throwing down a rather prudent centre scan, knowing for a fact that that army is incoming. And that's a rather large force of marauders and marines, backed up by 5 medivacs. Soon to be 4 medivacs. But with the bunker and the planetary command, you would think the Protoss has the upper hand, but... And that other Psionic Storm really did give him the upper hand, that certainly turned it. But the reinforcements are so good, and that siege tank is going to do a lot of damage. A lot of damage to one unit, but it was still a lot of damage. Even with twice the armour remaining after Protoss wiped out the Terran marauders there, even with twice the amount of army left. With that siege tank sat there blasting away and the planetary fortress sat there, then Terran would have indeed repelled that attack regardless. And that's a lot of Templar. That seems to be 7 Templar. 7 indeed. Scouting the expansion, it seems. Nothing there to be found. Once again, a singular marine at the Zelnaga watchtower would have seen that force incoming. Still looks like that Templar force has a good 3 or 4 storms left in it, and wiping out most of those SCVs. Seems like the Zealots are on to the command centre, but with that many SCVs repairing, it's not going to go down very easily at all. With the Templar exhausting their energy, WhiteRa's combined a couple of them into an Archon. I suspect the same fate awaits the remaining 2 Templar after another Psionic Storm, if they get that far. It seems like the SCVs are indeed going to kill 1 Templar, perhaps the 2nd as well, if it's been noticed. And it has been noticed, and that looks like it's going to be a second. Templar can't attack, only with Psionic Storm or if they merge into an Archon. So an SCV is quite happy to fight a Templar. Yep, and those Hellions doing a fairly decent job versus those Zealots. Combined with the Marauders slowing the Zealot movement speed down, and the siege tanks just throwing down a whole load of damage. Psionic Storm's doing a good job, but the medivacs are just healing so much. Making it very difficult to put down the Terran attack or defence. Even with greater numbers. Let's look at the units lost. Protoss has lost 30,000 minerals. Well, I think it's minerals and gas combined, so we're not quite sure exactly how much minerals or gas that is, but 30,000 worth of units, and Terran only losing 20,000. A fair amount of gas. Well, it was a fair amount of gas. Seems like Jinro's found a good way to use that down. And another attacking force from WhiteRa. Observer spotting that expansion, and WhiteRa just not liking that at all, goes to attempt to shut it down. With perhaps the aim to build his own expansion there. And if we look at the playcam, yep, Jinro won't actually see those probes going up there. So it currently has no idea that WhiteRa wishes to build an expansion up there. A little skirmish in the middle of the map. And a warp prism. Looks like Jinro will have probably seen that warp prism. But but considering the fairly large army coming to his expansion, I guess he knows where that's going. Sonic Storm stopping the Terran army from defending as fast as he would have liked. But once again, trying to get that planetary fortress down. But with all those SCVs repairing and the Terran defence in the rear, it's not going down at all. Leaving those Templar extremely stranded with no way of defending themselves. No energy for the Templar, no dice. A very sneaky warp prism combined with the warp gates to warp in some zealots and a Templar onto Jinro's island expansion, but unfortunately it's a planetary fortress, meaning that those zealots just ain't gonna mean anything. It's gonna need a much larger force to not only punch through the planetary fortress, but with the SCVs repairing and the very strong likelihood that Jinro will just simply load up Marines and Marauders into the medivacs and go down there and defend it. It's going to take a lot more forces, and WhiteRa has some Void Rays there, but not really getting the minerals worth out of them. Seem to fall very fast and not really get an awful lot out. Protoss air units seeming somewhat weak at the moment. Especially to a Viking Marine medivac army, they're not really going to put up much of a force. Much of a fight even, sorry. Just going to get focus fired, stimpacked, and the Marines are going to heal, and Void Rays more useful in my opinion of taking down buildings or the larger units. Broodlords, carriers, ultralisks, fours, anything where they can, you know, stay on there for an, because Void Rays do more damage the longer they're shooting. So against a primarily Marine and Marauder army where nothing really stands out except maybe for medivacs, but it's okay shooting the medivacs, but I mean all you're doing is reducing the healing now, and all that time you're killing the medivacs, you're getting shot to shit yourself, so you're not really going to win that fight. In fact, I'd almost guess that a Terran player is quite happy for you to kill the medivacs rather than the Marines. Rather nice mix then for Jinro now of Hellions, Marines, Marauders, Medivacs, and even some Vikings thrown in there for good measure. Probably to counter any Void Rays or anything. Jinro obviously not being exactly sure what the Protoss player is going to churn out, has just made some Vikings just for that extra bit of anti-air. Marines are a solid anti-air, but at the same time doesn't hurt to have a few of Vikings thrown in there. WhiteRa's observer will indeed spot that armour, and has rallied his own army to counter back. Whether it's going to be a straight on collision, or maybe he's going to wait for Jinro to go into his base first, and maybe he saw the Protoss with that scan, I'm not quite sure. He seems to have done, based on the fact that he's returning. Or he at least suspects that the Protoss is going to attack his base and has pulled it back to defend. Looks like he's staying mobile with the Sonic Storms. Trying to stay as mobile as possible, and that's some very damaging Sonic Storms there across every single part of Jinro's army. But look at that! Even with the absolutely devastating Sonic Storm spam all the way across Jinro's army, regardless of how much micro you've got, you were not avoiding those Sonic Storms. Even with all those Sonic Storms, Jinro still comes out the victor, and he must have at least a third of that army left, whereas WhiteRa lost his entire force. So much ranged fire damage and the healing from the medivacs and the slowing effect of the Punisher grenades could have so much damage. And with some micro, you know, What's going on down here? Oh, another sneaky warp prism into Jinro's main this time. Once again, the Terran mobility is